Fall has arrived in Alberta, and the R&R team is gearing up for the big season. This season we have shifted our focus away from the local deer hunting and decided to challenge ourselves to overnight long-distance hike-in expeditions. From the thick muskeg to deep within the Rocky Mountains. This is our story. We took advantage of the mild September weather and headed down to the southwestern corner of the Alberta Rocky Mountains in search for elk. The vast mountainous terrain presented us with new challenges. Many of the logging roads were badly washed out from the flooding in spring of 2013, making getting around by truck more difficult. The only wildlife we encountered on this two-day adventure were a few red squirrels and some white-tailed does. The only elk sign we saw was a set of prints on a riverbank. However, the trip south was enjoyable. We spent the night and headed home in the morning to plan the next adventure. This season we've taken up the ultimate challenge, a hunt for a Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep in the heart of the Rocky Mountains. Almost immediately, we discovered an abundance and variety of wildlife in the surrounding area. Animals such as moose, mule deer, and many rodents. We took a chance and climbed to the summit of one of the higher mountains to get a better view. The climb was steep, however, a surprise was waiting for us at the summit. After summiting the mountain, we found ourselves overlooking a grassy bowl nestled in sheer cliffs. We spent hours gazing into the bowl, looking for sheep and also a pathway in. Evidently, we found ourselves lacking the supplies required for a prolonged stay. After developing a strategy of how to enter the bowl, we packed up and headed back down the mountain. It was time to head home, resupply, then plan the 15-kilometer expedition into the bowl. After a week of planning and prep work, it was obvious the only way into that bowl was hiking and bushwhacking through the creek bed. The surrounding cliff sides were simply too steep to climb. However, after hours of hiking through muskeg, our persistence finally paid off, and we reached our goal. The 15-kilometer hike was over. However, the adventure had only just begun. We spent the night in the lower bowl around the fire. However, the anticipation of the morning kept us restless. We were taken by surprise the next morning. Before we knew it, we had sheep in our sights. Carefully, we approached the ridge to set up and take a better look for a legal ram. Less than 100 yards away, we had the high ground, with the rifle deployed. The sheep that caught us by surprise had no idea we were so close. Even though we didn't see any legal rams on this expedition, we stumbled upon a paradise in the Rockies. We watched the ewes and lambs throughout the day as we set out to climb the neighboring peaks. By climbing over 2,000 feet above the creek bed, we battled wind gusts reaching over 80 miles an hour. Even though we couldn't find a mature ram, it was a pleasure discovering this paradise in the Rockies. However, our skills were about to be tested again. Mother Nature threw a curveball at us the next morning by blanketing the bowl in 2 inches of snow overnight, with temperatures dropping well below zero. With more snow forecasted for later on, we cut the trip short by 1 day. However, we made the most of our last day and hunted on. This time, the sheep nearly walked into our camp. We packed up camp and then set out to the same peaks as yesterday. Once again, we battled the high winds and blowing snow in search for a ram. The sheep this time were feeding on the sheltered slopes, but with only ewes and lambs in the group, we watched and admired them as they crossed in front of us.
Moose season has opened in northern Alberta, which means bringing out the wall tent, the quads, lighting the wood furnace, and putting ourselves out in complete isolation for 4 days. The thick brush made spotting moose and hiking a challenge. The 4 of us collaborated and came up with a strategy. We used the quads to drive the grid patterned roads to find open clear cuts, and also search for any sign of moose traffic. After driving for an hour, I stopped to explore a natural willowed area just off the main trail. I searched the area thoroughly, and my patience paid off. I found my first moose print. The print is fresh. Now I know where the moose have been, and I have a good idea where it was headed. After a full day of quadding and hiking through the bush, we were all looking forward to putting our feet up in front of the stove. We then came up with a plan for the next morning. The plan was simple. The 4 of us will set out on quads to the hunting grounds. Once at the grounds, Dave and Shay will go out on foot, while Tom and I drove to the open clear cuts and waited. After a few hours had passed, I also began hiking in the open clearings. I covered a lot of ground and stuck to my assigned area. Then a rifle shot broke the silence. When I arrived, I was in awe to see such an enormous, healthy-looking moose. Our patience and persistence had paid off, and now we had something to show for it. The quads made positioning the moose a breeze. Without them, this would be a very difficult pull. After the moose had been dressed, Dave had returned with a trailer, and the antler spread had been measured. Crushing our previous record of 43 inches taken 2 seasons ago, is this 50-inch giant. This moose hunt concludes our hunting season. We will be returning again next year.